on the Lindsey Graham bill that POTUS has supported, there is a 100% tariff, potential tariff on India. Considering there are negotiations that are going on at this point with India, does this further alienate the whole India-US relationship and the trade deal?
So, I just might as well say this. During the as the Ukraine-Russia war has gone on, I guess 6 to 8 months ago, I think I wrote an op-ed in the Financial Times, which absolutely factually correctly pointed out that prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, India was not involved in the oil trade with Russia, but afterwards it got heavily involved and was selling a lot of refined products on behalf of Russia, which helped feed the war machine. And that issue has been resolved. Maybe I had a little bit to do with that op-ed, but I can tell you I got actually firebombed by the Indian continent on the internet with all sorts of nasty little attacks. And all I would say, you don't do that. That's not how we resolve problems here in America. With respect to your question, the President and your Prime Minister have a very good working relationship. They are going to work that out amongst themselves, and it's not for me and a gaggle to get between that. All right.
Plus economy, even though a lot of Americans seem to be feeling the pinch, are frustrated and expressing a lot.
Well, let me push back a little bit. I mean, the President on down, whether it's Scotty or Kevin, myself, Howard Lutnick, Jameson Greer, we all understand that we're grappling with inflation and problems that are creating hardship for Americans. We understand that, okay? But we also understand that the media is doing a very, very poor job in reporting the really strong efforts we have been making and showing fruits on implementing basically the Trumpnomics policies that we did very well in the first term, and we're doing even better this time. So I would urge you all, if you're on the economics beat, to follow my columns in Real Clear Markets. Every time a major report comes out, I have a column up there. I also have videos on this. But if you simply walk through the policies first, if you look at, for example, tax policy, the relevant one here is the big beautiful bill, 100% expensing of building factories here. And then you look at the second issue, which is the fair trade. The signature there are the tariffs, which are bringing onshore both dollar investment from foreigners, so they build it here to avoid the tariffs, but also indigenous investment here amongst domestic. And then you've got the deregulation part. Lee Zeldin's doing a great job. Russ Vought over at OMB is doing a great job. And you cover all four the issues. And so what we're seeing in the data is basically on the jobs blue-collar front, we're seeing first the money's coming in. We're getting just an enormous burst of construction jobs. And when you get construction jobs, building factories, you get manufacturing jobs, and we're starting to see that. So about 6 months ago, the ISM Manufacturing Index, 0 to 100 diffusion index, as they say, anything over 50 indicates manufacturers expanding. It was below 50 going back to April 22nd in the Biden years, and it started going above 50 6 months ago with a trend up, and just this last one, finally the employment component of it went up. So that's like incredibly good news. If you look at the inflation data, one of the brightest spots is the dramatic fall in housing and rent. And that's a fifth horseman of prosperity. Our closed, secure border policy basically has deportations. People are leaving this country. When you had 20 million people coming in over a 4-year period across our borders, that's 20 million people you got to have housing and shelter for. And not surprisingly, it drove up rents and housing prices, particularly in the blue sanctuary cities area. We're seeing that come down dramatically. It's coming down the slowest where we think sanctuary cities, but that's going to be a real boon, and that's going to keep trending down. And then with respect to other components in the CPI and PPI, we take a very micro approach to it. I'll give you a flavor of just two things, like beef and scallops, right? This is how we think. We go like one thing at a time, right? So on the scallops front, I helped pen an executive order which will resolve this absurdity. I don't know if you know your geography, but the Georges Bank is off the New England coast. It's one of the most fertile fishing areas in the world, and it's split with a border between Canada and the United States. And under the Biden rules, the Canadians could go and harvest scallops on their side of the Georges Bank on the northern edge. And they get, if I can get the numbers right, I think it's about 7 million pounds or tons. You can fact check. It's one of those. It's a lot. It's a lot. But what's interesting about it, they were taken from the Georges Banks just about the amount we import from Canada, driving up our trade deficit, and and we couldn't take scallops on our side of the Georges Banks. That's crazy stuff. So what the executive order does is set in motion a process where we're working with the Department of Commerce, which is and NOAA, which is in charge of all that, and the New England Fisheries Council and all that, and we're going to go forward in a very environmentally secure way, and Americans are going to get millions more scallops, and prices will go down. That's how we do it. Now let me give you the cattle thing, because that's the hard one. We've done really well getting chicken prices down, egg prices down, and all of that. The problem with cattle is that we're in a global shortage of cattle and therefore beef. So we're fighting against not just a national trend, but a macro global trend. But one of the things that the Biden regime did, they actually had a war on cattle and red meat. Okay, and it shows up in actual government documents. And forgive me, but it was about farts, cattle farts to be exact, and the methane that cattle produce when they pass gas. And so the thinking in Biden land was, let's not eat red meat anymore, so let's kill off the cattle, so let's take away their grazing. And they did that. But the 25 million acres of grazing land really drove up the cost of a lot of American ranchers. So they did stuff like that. So I personally have worked really hard with Doug Burgum at Interior and Brooke Rollins at Agriculture, both very fine public servants. We're opening that back up. But we've got a screwworm problem on the southern border with Mexico. We're working hard to get essentially a fruit fly solution to that. And the biggest thing, and this is really important, we have a cartel in beef processing. It's a 4-firm cartel that controls 85% of all beef processing. Now, what does that mean? It means they're in the middle of the supply chain. So they can screw the ranchers by paying them too little for the cattle, and that suppresses the cattle herd. They can screw the consumers by charging too much to the supermarkets. And it gets worse because 2 out of the 4 firms are Brazilian owned up to their neck with the Chinese. And what the Brazilian part of the cartel is, as any cartel will do, is they maximize their prices globally, and Americans are picking up the tab for that. So we're working hard at the Department of Justice on antitrust. We're working hard with Brooke Rollins at the Department of Agriculture, trying to essentially bring a whole new breed of small and medium-sized processors into the market to reduce the concentration. So my point to the American people is, we have your back. We want the kitchen table to be a fun place to be, that you can have affordable meals, and we really take this at a granular level, one by one by one by one, and we're making progress. All right.